Let's start with Iowa. We just got some results there in that Senate race. Talk to us about what happened in that state on the Democratic side and why we're even paying attention to Iowa at this moment.
Let's start with the why part because it's a great and important question. Democrats have this on their list as a possibility. Iowa is a Republican state. It's been Republican for a while, but Democrats have this as a possibility in their quest to take back the Senate. They've nominated a candidate tonight. Josh Turek is their candidate. You see they're a runaway in this primary. Some people thought it might be more competitive. He's a member of the Iowa legislature. His district is out here in western Iowa. Zach Wall is a member of the Iowa Senate. His district over here. You see this one blue, darker blue dot. He won the area. He's winning the area, at least right now anyway, where his Senate district is. But a big win for Josh Turek. He had the backing of Chuck Schumer and the Democratic establishment of Washington. A lot of national money went in there. Some Iowans didn't like that, but that money clearly helped Josh Turek to a runaway victory there. You say, can a Democrat win a Senate seat in Iowa? The retiring Senator Joni Ernst is not up for this seat. The Republicans picked their nominee tonight. This was an easy one. Ashley Hinson is a Republican congresswoman. This is her district up here in northeast Iowa. Even the Democrats will tell you, Abby, she is a very strong candidate. But what they are hoping for is that the national headwinds, anti-Trump, the affordability crisis, they hope to tie her to Trump, and they hope to pull off this Senate seat. Their hopes in part based on they have a strong candidate in the governor's race as well.
Let's start with what's happening in Iowa, because I think this is maybe the place where you can kind of encapsulate a lot of the big themes. This is a relatively rural state, but it's a pretty red state. And there are a lot of problems, economic problems, that they're sort of dissatisfied with the administration and the current status quo on. And now Democrats are looking at a Senate seat and a gubernatorial race, and they're thinking, hey, we might actually be able to compete here.
Yeah, that's right. And Donald Trump won this state by 13 points. Now he's underwater by 7 points. If I had $1 for every time John King said deep root red state, X state, and Democrats have a chance in winning it this cycle, it would, Democrats at this point are doing very well in these states. This isn't the first time. We were just talking about Texas last week. And it is for the first time in a very long time that the Democrats have done a few things. One, they've put up great candidates in most of these states, in most of these districts. And as much as Chuck Schumer gets a lot of crap from his party, you have to give it to him that in some of these states, they are competitive because Democrats they're good candidates in these places. The economy is a huge factor, no matter where you go. No matter how much Republicans try to distract and want to play culture wars, it is the economy that voters care about, and Donald Trump is not delivering on it. And when it comes to Iowa, that is the number one thing. That is why Donald Trump is.
First they got hit by tariffs, then they got hit by agricultural issues.
Exactly.
Yeah. Farmers have been hit so hard. First by tariffs that devastated the way that they could export their crops. Then by the skyrocketing price and scarcity of fertilizer, which has made it impossible for them to secure their crop yield for next year. So I think for farmers, the price of fuel in a place like Iowa, where the distances are so great, these are things that are disproportionately affecting places like Iowa. And I think it's been a good night so far for the Democratic establishment in that in Turek, they have a guy who is seen as more moderate, who has a history of being able to win in Republican-leaning districts. And so they've got themselves a good candidate.
Yeah, a good night for Chuck Schumer and the establishment. A not so good night for the progressive left.
Yeah,
so far.
Yeah, so far. But
in Iowa specifically is what I mean.
But look, I mean, Donald Trump has basically been stomping on the people of Iowa. As I just said, why can't they get the fertilizer? Because the Iran war has made it impossible for farmers to be able to fertilize their crops around the world, including in Iowa. You got a state that was there for Donald Trump, was there for him 3 times in a row, and is getting just stomped in the face by this president. And so now the Democrats have Turek. His personal story as a Paralympian, this guy wheels himself up to people's houses, throws the wheelchair up the stairs, crawls up the stairs to knock on the door. I don't want to run against somebody who's got that kind of heart. And that's who, give Chuck Schumer his due tonight. That's who Chuck Schumer picked, and that's who won tonight.
I got to give y'all credit. You guys have come up with a really compelling story about a state that's 14 points Republican. If I had tried to sell you this story about Oregon in a good Republican year or a neutral year, you'd laugh me off the set.
Well, maybe so,
And
but
Iowa and Oregon are about comparable on either side of the spectrum.
that's how bad you guys are.
You guys
That's
are
how
gonna
bad
be-
off
it's
you are.
Brad,
That's how bad off you
guys are
are.
Brad, forced to
but
spend
really,
money.
I mean,
It's a state that was 14
hold on,
points
but on truth
Republicans.
serum,
That's not
on
where it
truth
is right
serum,
now.
Brad, the Republicans are talking about needing to defend
That's right.
these seats. So that's not spin.
Well,
that's
that's
real.
We have three
right?
competitive House seats in Iowa, and so we're going to work hard for those. Chuck Schumer, by the way, give him credit. He spent $10 million to get the least crazy person nominated tonight in Iowa because left to their own devices, Democrat primary voters right now, as they're proving in Maine with Graham Plattner, would pick the absolute nuttiest fool. And so Chuck Schumer stopped it with $10 million. That's what it took.
Yeah, but also you have places like in Texas where the NRSC was spending money to elect Jasmine Crockett. And there have been in other places where Republicans have tried to meddle, like New Jersey, where they've tried to meddle in elections where they can to get their candidate of choice. And it hasn't always worked. And instead, what
mean
has
like
happened,
Democrats are doing in
and
Montana tonight?
What has
Should we
happened,
talk about
what has
that?
actually happened is now Republicans are not only going to have to spend a significant amount of money in both of these states, which is going to hurt them in other states as well, given that they're going to have to
Well, the
spend money to
Republicans-
defend these
Republicans
these
actually have the
seats.
money, and the Democrats don't. I mean, that's the other
Our
issue.
candidates are raising money.
Not nearly as much as the Republicans are, and they don't have the same bankroll right now.
Billionaires.
That's
They don't have
the reality.
billionaires,
Well,
right.
except for the one running in California and trying to buy that election.
Yeah, but he's
this
spending
is a
money on himself.
narrative-driven race right now. We're seeing the same thing in Texas, where it's wishful thinking amongst Democrats that they're going to be able to win in these deeply red states. They're not going to be able to win in these deeply red states.
ask you-
Might it be a little bit closer than maybe some Republicans would like, given some of the issues that you raised? Absolutely. But I don't
Already
think
just
it's an
pulling ahead right
actual
now.
threat at all.
Well, look, I mean, a race that is closer in a state that is deep red is still a problem politically for Republicans. I want to also just take a moment on Congressman Tom Kaine, who is MIA in his
the
job,
invisible Congress.
running unopposed, endorsed this morning by President Trump, who says, get out and vote for Tom. He will not let you down. But he hasn't been seen in Washington in months and then won't even explain what the issue is. He says, right now I'm focused on my recovery and under the advice of healthcare professionals, I'll transition from virtual work to in-person work in a matter of weeks. At that time, I will be completely transparent to the nature of my medical
This
condition.
is insane.
At that time?
Yeah. It's
Not at this time?
unacceptable. Honestly, listen, I'm all for privacy, but not when you have a duty to your constituents. You know, I remember John McCain telling us all about his glioblastoma, Teddy Kennedy telling us all about his glioblastoma, John Fetterman
Sure.
telling us that he was missing because he was, you know, dealing with his mental health challenges and in treatment for that. You owe it to the people that you are supposed to show up for, vote for, represent in Congress to tell them
100%.
why you are missing. And if you do, a lot of times people are very understanding.
But you
But
wait
it is
until
the
after
height
the election?
of
Yeah.
Or in Joe
entitlement.
Biden's case, after everybody sees it on the
Yeah.
stage at the
Well,
debate.
forget Joe Biden. Let's talk about the guy
I don't
who's
want
up
to
for
forget Joe
election.
Biden. I want to keep reminding y'all that every
It's
time.
your only go-to. It's all you got.
No, the reality is, the reason why he's not there, when we actually get that information, can completely change all of this. When you are dealing with something, we obviously don't know what it is and we shouldn't speculate. But if it's something that people can understand and maybe experience in their own family, they're going to give you a lot of leeway
Can I ask you a question?
when you actually tell them.
But wouldn't you have preferred him to do it before the election? I mean,
He's doing the election in November.
I mean, we're
It doesn't, but no, not. I mean, whether or not I would prefer it, I don't know if that's the right question. The question is political. Did he need to do it before tonight? No, he's running unopposed. There was no threat.
He has
Isn't
missed
the-
So I do
100
think
I was
votes.
just gonna
He
say,
needs
I
to
mean,
tell his constituents why he's
that's
not showing up.
the
what
to
Anna's,
vote.
but what Anna's saying is
While we are all
what Anna's
paying
saying is the
his
point I was going to
salary.
make, which is it's not all political. It's like he has an actual job. He's been absent from his actual job, which is on behalf of his constituents. That deserves an explanation.
So also,
Oh, I'm not saying it
can I
doesn't
just
deserve an
remind you
explanation.
that
He's going to give it. I just think the timeline might be forgiven specifically on what is the issue.
Maybe not. But I think some people would say if you can't do your job,
Yeah, maybe.
for 3-4 months, then maybe you can't do your job.
Some would, and they're going to get.
Lloyd Austin went to the
explain that.
hospital, by the way, and he was dragged to the Hill, and it was the scandal of a century for him to go to the hospital and not disclose that. And you know what? He should have disclosed it. And there were Democrats and Republicans who all said he should have disclosed when he did that. What is
What were the
interesting here
consequences for
is that
what were the
he got
consequences?
called to the Hill, and they were talking about potential
Okay.
impeachment.
Well, so here the
And-
consequences could be that the voters will be upset and decide not to reelect
Well,
him.
that
But right
they,
now we don't
they
have
are
to
not.
have
I
a
think
voter
he also-
debate.
I just don't buy that
I mean,
y'all
they-
are
they-
upset about the Republican primary voters not getting the chance to vote.
Well,
John
look,
McCain
I mean,
tonight.
listen.
I don't buy that.
No,
There,
Voters are
this
members
is
on
this
the
has
side.
happened before on both sides of the aisle where members have gone missing, and it's not really acceptable to anybody, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I think voters have a right. Members of Congress are not just there for their own vanity. They work for the American people. They are casting votes on behalf of their constituents. So when they're not there, it is a problem. It's not.
That's Mike
It's
Johnson.
not-
It's been a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem for Mike Johnson.
Yeah.